Historians spent centuries assuming ancient Egyptians mummified animals only for the gods. The tombs tell a different story. For 200 years, Egyptology operated on a single assumption. Animals found in Egyptian tombs and burial sites were religious offerings. Ibises to Thoth, cats to Bastet, crocodiles to Sobek. The logic seemed airtight. Egypt was a civilization obsessed with deity appeasement, so when archaeologists uncovered millions of mummified creatures, literally millions, the conclusion felt inevitable. Sacred animals, votive offerings, ritual deposit. Case closed, but the numbers didn't add up. By the 19th century, excavators had catalogued somewhere between 10 and 16 million animal mummies. 10 million. Some estimates ran higher. No temple, no matter how elaborate, needed that volume of sacred offerings. The math broke. And when archaeologists finally examined the deposits themselves, not the grand temple sites, but the smaller burial grounds scattered across the Nile Valley, they found something the older theories couldn't explain. The animals weren't just mummified, they were buried with care. Wrapping wasn't perfunctory, it was meticulous. Linen wound in deliberate patterns. Some creatures received individual clay coffins, others were placed in shared family pits. At Saqqara, excavators uncovered a cemetery dedicated entirely to dogs, not strays, recognizable breeds, greyhounds, mastiff types, animals that belonged to households. The real shift came when researchers began examining the bones themselves. Where patterns, fractures, evidence of old age, disease. One cat's skeleton showed a healed leg break, years healed, the bone reknit. Someone had cared for that animal through injury. A crocodile found in a family tomb near Thebes bore signs of captive feeding, not wild, kept, possibly for decades. By the 1980s, a new interpretation began taking shape. These weren't votive animals at all. They were companions, pets. The mummification wasn't religious protocol, it was grief. The evidence accumulated. At Bubastis, a site sacred to the cat goddess Bastet, excavators found thousands of cat mummies. But here's what the older scholars missed. Many of these cats were buried in clusters, groupings that matched household compositions. A mother cat with kittens, an older cat with younger ones, family units. And they weren't all young. Some were elderly, arthritic, animals that had lived full lives inside homes. The breakthrough came from an unexpected angle: inscriptions. Not on grand temple walls, on the modest clay parts and coffins themselves. Egyptians wrote names on these vessels, owner names, pet names. At one site, a small limestone plaque bore an inscription, Mirai, beloved cat of Kenti. Mirai, the cat had a name. The owner had recorded it. That's not ritual protocol, that's remembrance. More inscriptions emerged. Osiris-Hor, who loved his dog Tahotep. The monkey T-Genti, companion of the household, not votive language, not priestly formulas, personal, emotional. The Egyptians were naming their grief, recording it, making it permanent. What changed between the old theory and the new one wasn't the artifacts. The artifacts had always been there. What changed was the question. Egyptologists stopped asking, what does this serve? And started asking, what does this mean to the person who made it? The shift was subtle but total. The evidence accumulated further. At the site of Giza near worker settlements, archaeologists found a pit containing over 40 dog skeletons, not buried ritually, buried together, possibly over generations. A family plot, for pets. A woman's tomb from the 18th dynasty included her dog, wrapped separately, placed at her feet. The positioning suggests intention. Companionship in the afterlife, not divine offering. The grief was real, and it was formalized. Egyptians had a process. The animal was mummified using the same techniques as humans, organs removed, natron salt applied, wrapped, placed in a container. Sometimes the container was inscribed. Sometimes it was placed in a family tomb, sometimes in a shared cemetery. The ritual was consistent. The care was consistent. The love was consistent. What's striking is how normalized this was. Egyptians didn't apologize for grieving animals. They didn't hide it. They monumentalized it. A monkey named T-Genti received a limestone stela, a commemorative stone marker, the equivalent of a headstone. T-Genti's owner wanted the monkey's name preserved, for eternity. This was a public act of love. The pet cemeteries themselves tell stories. At the Saqqara Dog Cemetery, archaeologists documented over 2,000 burials spanning centuries. Continuous, intentional, generation after generation of families returning to the same spot to bury their dogs. Not a commercial operation, not a temple, a place where grief accumulated, where memory lived. The animals themselves reveal the relationships. Cats show evidence of living indoors, where on their claws suggests hard floors, not soil. Diet analysis shows they ate human food scraps, evidence of sharing meals. Mice and birds, yes, but also grain, bread, leftovers. These were household animals. They lived with people. They died with people. They were mourned. Some animals show signs of extreme old age. A baboon found in a tomb bore teeth worn nearly to the gums, arthritis in every joint. This animal didn't die in its prime. It lived long, lived well. And when it died, its owner went through the full mummification process anyway. The cost was significant. The decision was deliberate. The real implication sits here. Grief isn't modern. Attachment to animals isn't a contemporary invention. Egyptians 3,000 years ago felt loss acutely enough to preserve it, to formalize it, to spend resources on it, to name it, to mark it with stone. The form was different. The feeling was identical. Humans have always loved what they lived with, and they've always grieved what they lost. This reframing matters. For centuries, Egyptology treated animal mummies as evidence of religious fervor. Exotic, alien, incomprehensible, but they're evidence of something far simpler. A person held an animal they loved. That animal died. The person couldn't bear to let it go, so they preserved it. The same impulse that drives us to photograph our pets, to frame their pictures, to scatter their ashes in meaningful places. The medium changed. The emotion didn't. Ancient Egypt built monuments to kings, but they also buried their dogs. They named their cats. They kept their monkeys close. And when those animals died, they mummified them, not because doctrine demanded it, because love did. The tombs were never just about the afterlife. They were about the present, about saying, this animal mattered. This animal lived here. This animal was mine, I remember. Subscribe for the stories historians overlooked, the everyday lives that reveal who we actually were.